Okay.
Here we go again. All right. Let's give people a few minutes to come back. Oh dear. I can always get my video guy to edit the beginnings of this if we need to.
Oh, okay.
Don't
Is
don't
it,
want to talk
will it come
real
up in the same live stream? Like this, people will be able
No,
to see the
it'll
same
come up in
link?
the channel. The channel just has
Oh, I
a
see.
standard live setting.
I
So
see.
if people go back, they'll find it, but it won't be on the same link. That's why I don't like using this program.
I see. Okay.
Annoying.
Okay. I see us live, so I know
Yes.
that we're there. Okay, great.
All right. Just one more second.
Okay.
All right. Well, somebody's here. Oh, okay, good. Not an empty room. All right, we can continue then.
Okay, great.
All right, we are right now at 7,300 roughly. So we're $200 away from the first stretch goal.
That's awesome.
Yay. And we're
That's
one
so
backer
cool.
away from 100, which is also very cool. Vesper, hi.
Well done, everybody. Well done.
This is very exciting.
Yeah.
This is very exciting. So Vesper, now I've told the story from my perspective. Now perhaps you can tell it from your perspective. What did you really think when the crazy person to your immediate right or left or whatever it is came to you with this idea?
Yeah, I took probably a solid minute to just laugh. Yeah. When you said, "Oh," I was like, "This Christmas?" Because, it's typical, like, if you wanna do something for Christmas in publishing, you do it a year in advance at least, and that
Yep.
even that would be a rush, like, you probably do something 2 or 3 years in advance.
Hmm.
So, yeah, but, I just felt like, "Okay, if he's crazy enough to do this, then I'm crazy enough to try to get these illustrations done before, Thanksgiving." So,
Yeah.
no guts, no
Well,
glory.
there you go. And at that point, the best I could do was, hope on a wing and a prayer that we'd have the funding to do it. But we had to actually get started before we had the funding because
Yeah.
there would have been no way of actually being able to finish it. So a lot of this was just kind of holding your nose, closing your eyes, and jumping off the edge of the cliff and hoping the water was actually there and it wasn't a mirage.
Yeah.
So, oh, we've got backer
Oh,
100. Okay, okay,
congratulations.
that's so cool.
He should get some confetti, so
Yeah,
like
totally.
some glitter cannons exploding.
Somebody who actually understands this technology are probably able to do that and press a button and have like
I'm
stuff
sure.
exploding in front of us. But oh my gosh, we are right now $34 away from the first stretch goal.
That's amazing.
We're getting there. This is
Not even
exciting.
12 hours into it.
It's so cool. Well, this is the great thing about Kickstarter, right? So the other ones, they don't have the element of risk. So when you fund, it's like, yeah, good job, polite clap. But
Mhm.
here, you really feel like you're part of a community that's pulling for you, and it's something that I noticed that's really nice. You don't have to pitch it as an ask, as a charity ask.
Mhm.
It's not. It's getting people involved in a barn raising,
Yeah.
a virtual barn raising. But anyway, enough of that. Vesper, I want to know for myself what what goes into the process of getting a brand new story that you haven't read before and you've already said yes to, so you don't even know if you're going to like it or not. And
Yeah, 'cause I
at,
hadn't even read the novella yet. Let me just grab something real quick.
right.
So I have my manuscript. I took it with me to parent teacher conferences this afternoon
Awesome.
because I'm literally like reading and sketching at the same time. Usually I would
That's so
take,
cool.
good couple months to kind of read through things and like really chew on it. But this is my copy. And
You printed it
what I
out.
do,
That's awesome.
I did. Oh, I
That's
have,
awesome.
yeah, I have to. I have to. So what I do is I go through the manuscript and I just like every single like descriptive word. Here's a good page actually. So every single descriptive word, you know, or descriptive passage, like, you know, I'll underline anything visual that gives a clue to like what the you know, what the characters look like, what kind of environment they have or whatever. And then if I have an immediate thing that pops in my head, then I'll just kind of like doodle it in the margin there.
Cool.
Um, and so I'm just really trying to like immediately make a visual connection with the text, just like really on an instinctual kind of gut level, like just throw it out there. And
Cool.
then when if there's something that really grabs me, like there was something I read today in chapter 4 that um, I'll show you how strongly I felt about it.
You can share the passage if you want.
Oh, really? Okay, maybe
Yeah.
do a little reading. Okay.
Yeah, why not?
If I can just find it in my sea of notes here. Sorry, give me 1 second.
It's okay. We're creatives. We're expected to be all over the place.
Oh, it was chapter 3. I'm sorry.
While you look, it's okay. While you're looking, I want to address SD Hardy's comment. I'm trying to figure out a good package forwarding service so I can get the limited edition hardcover to Australia. Yeah, you know, this is the thing. So I've got a few questions, and if I will say this now because this is going to be posted on YouTube so people can see this afterwards. I have to limit the special edition hardcover only to Canada and the US. The reason is that I can't use media mail for this because there are elements that are involved that are not media. So the wax stamp, the map and everything. It means that this is going to be based on weight, and it's just a regular freight thing. So I started looking into it. The prices can get really insane. So if somebody really, really wants to, what you can do is you can find out the best way for me to get it to you from the US and contribute that amount on top of the amount that you pay for so the $75. So if you're willing to pay for the shipping yourself, just add on the extra amount and let me know that you're doing that, and I will work it out with you, as long as it's not like 50 or 100 people. So it's possible we can do this. I did this with Singapore last time and with 1 or 2 other countries. So it is possible, but you guys have, if you really want it, you have to do the extra legwork. Sorry. All right.
Yeah, because there is that option right at the top that says that you can pledge without a perk.
Yeah.
That's probably where you do it, right?
Well, actually, you can pledge any amount of money in addition to the tier that you pledge it. So if at the $75 tier, you can say you want to do that, and you can add money on top of it.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. You know what you're doing way more than I do here.
It's okay.
I'm just along for the ride. Okay, so on page 21, you can see that like page 21 was like especially, you know,
oh, nice,
rich in visual imagery here. So this one paragraph really got me. Andre closed his eyes. He had always known that Dunai was special. Deer grazed together with domesticated goats in the pastures. Toddlers played with wild rabbits and squirrels under the eaves of their houses. Wolves were known to come to the edges of the storyteller's fire pit and sit together with the dogs. On sunny days, as the spinner women worked outside, songbirds landed on their shoulders and sang to them in rhythm with the humming wheels. And now he knew why. It was not a reason, it was a person. He was looking right at her. I just loved that. I thought, oh,
that's so interesting, because that's all happening in his head, right? And it's not like a scene.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's abstract. It's describing. I mean, there's a lot of visual imagery, sure, but it's not something that's happening on screen, so to speak. So I'd love to hear why that grabbed you as an illustrator, and how you think you might make that concrete.
Yeah, I mean, because first of all, it's alive in someone's. I mean, it is in his head, but it's describing phenomena that he has seen, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And also that, I mean, not only do you have all these animals and like the visuals of the village and the spinning wheel and like all these amazing objects that would be so fun to draw.
Yeah.
But you also have these opposites, right? Like the wolves and the dogs, or no, I just put the page away, but
Yeah.
like the humans and the birds. And it reminded me of this experience I had recently where my cat caught a little baby wren and
Oh
brought it in
gosh.
the house, and the wren was like tucked away in the shoe on the shoe tray, like under some shoes and like shaking. And so I picked it up and I carried it outside and it was trembling, but
Mhm.
I sat down with it. It was just staying in my hand. And I didn't know if it was hurt, if it, couldn't fly or something, but it just sat there in my hand and it was just trembling and trembling. And then pretty soon its breathing slowed and it fell asleep. A
Oh my
baby
gosh.
wren fell asleep in my hand.
That is so cool. Oh my
And
goodness.
I was just staring at it, just like, is this really happening to me in my life? I'm the luckiest person on the planet.
Yeah.
So I've experienced times like that where the natural world, like you get a little glimpse into how it really is supposed to be and
Mhm.
how connected we really are supposed to be with creation.
Well, that's
And
a huge theme in the story. So
yeah,
I'm glad that came through.
yeah. So for me, that had a really like a real emotional resonance, and I thought, okay, this is going to be really, really fun to draw. So you should expect
uh,
to see that.
yes. Well,
Yeah.
okay. So I'm going to play devil's advocate here,
Okay.
and since we have a limited number of illustrations, I do um, uh, I do hope you get to the end before you do the 5 illustrations, because if there's like a bunch of things that catch your attention
No, you know
and
what
you
I did?
illustrate them all.
Here's what I did. So I split the manuscript into 5,
Hmm.
and I
Okay.
tabbed about every however many pages it was, 20
Okay. Cool.
pages,
Cool. Cool. Yeah.
so that I knew that my pacing was gonna have to approximate meeting that
Yeah. Okay. I should
that
have known. I'm
pace.
dealing with a real professional.
No, 'cause it's I mean, I illustrate my own books, right? So I have
Yeah.
to make some choices at some point with my own, because I could illustrate the whole thing without words and just let the pictures tell the story, but,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, I have to be
How,
pretty choosy in mine too.
do you do you enjoy illustrating your own work more than the work of others, or does it matter?
I can't choose. They're both totally
Yeah.
different things. When I'm writing my own stuff, the images just come as I'm writing, and I'll make a decision at some point, like, "Oh, this makes more sense to do in a picture, because to write it would be too much," it would
Yeah. Yeah.
be overkill. Or that
No,
there's
that's
some
so cool.
nuance that you just don't have words for, but you can see in a visual. So that's kind of the dance that I do. But then when I
Oh,
get a text from somebody else to illustrate, um, then it's just about reading between the lines of what they've written and seeing, oh, like I'm bringing something else to it. It's more of a conversation,
yeah.
with another person and their creative process. So it's fun either way.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I really like that idea of allowing the pictures to fill out your own writing. That's got to
Mhm.
be really That'd be really rewarding, because there is, I mean, we're such a visual culture, and as writers, we do tend to emphasize the visual much more, and to have the ability to pull back on the visual in the writing and allowing
Mhm.
it to come out in the that can make your prose so much stronger too. That's such an interesting
Yeah.
tool.
That's something that I think that writers benefit from with when working with illustrators, because with picture books, when you only have 100, between 100 and 500 words to work with, you can't really waste them on extraneous visual description, you
Yeah,
know, and the writer has to trust the illustrator, and that can be really difficult, to depict their, to really to let their baby go out in the world and be
yeah,
interpreted by somebody else who
sure,
sees things in it that you didn't necessarily see, or differently than you saw, you know?
yeah,
Yeah. So it forces you to be much much more economical with your words, which in my writing, that's something that I try to do as well. I try to err on the side of being more spare, um, because it's going to have pictures in it.
Yeah, that's cool. So tell us, give us the best interaction you've had with an author that you've had to illustrate, and the worst. I'm very curious.
Oh, if I told the worst, I could get in trouble for that.
Well, you don't have to name any names. Just the.
Oh, I could tell you the worst, actually. I can tell you the worst.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily with an author, but it was a situation I got into, where I was a young illustrator and well, I'm still a young illustrator, but, I was a younger illustrator just starting out, and somebody offered me the chance to have a 5-book deal, right?
Oh wow.
And it was to illustrate these ebooks.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yes, sign me up," 'cause I could put it all in my portfolio, and then that'd be a stepping stone to the next thing, it was great.
Hmm.
'Cause I always say you have to do the equivalent of scrubbing toilets no matter what career you're in, there's always
Yeah.
that time. Well, the deal was I would have, um, 2 weeks to do each book. They were ebooks. 2 weeks to do each book, and I would get $500 per book.
That's not good.
It's abysmal. It's abusive. But of course, I signed on the dotted line. And so
Uh,
I got 2 books into it, and I had little kids at home at the time, and I was renting a studio space, and so, I was at that studio all hour I worked, like, 24-hour days for 2
oh my
weeks,
goodness. Because
practically.
plus, it's like the 2 weeks is a super short amount of time. It's
But you
insane.
can't even finish sketches in 2 weeks. Like,
Yeah.
typically, a book would take me a full picture book would take me anywhere between 3 and 6 months. But
Yeah.
really, honestly, like, in terms of the whole entire process, a year. So
Wow.
to try to condense 52 weeks into 2 weeks,
Four or five hundred
um,
dollars.
for $500, it was like, in the words of, Napoleon Dynamite, "It's like $1 an hour." Um, so 2 books into it, I just went to them and I was like, "I cannot fulfill this contract. It's impossible for me." And
Yeah.
surprisingly, they let me out. They
Wow.
let me out after 2 books and they canceled it, but oh my gosh, I thought I was gonna die.
No kidding. Especially
So
with
that
kids
was
at
the
home.
worst.
I can't imagine. Yikes.
That was the worst, but, you do funny things when you're scrappy and, you wanna get in the game. Um, but
All
let's
right, a
see,
good one.
a good
Doesn't
one,
have to be the
let's
best. It could just be a really good one.
mm.
Like an unexpectedly good one. Something that jumps out at you.
The picture book that I just illustrated, that's coming out next year. No, it's coming out it's either fall of '23 or spring of '24, I can't remember. But I got to do a picture book about the founder of the Yiddish Daily Forward, which is it's now called The Forward, it's still a Jewish newspaper, but
Hmm.
it's online now. But it was founded by, a Lithuanian Jewish immigrant who came over, in the 1880s, I believe.
Hmm.
And it was the first Yiddish daily newspaper in America, and it really helped, immigrants at the time to acclimate, um, and it was just a lot of fun to illustrate because it was all turn of the century New York and,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
pinafores and tenements and, it was just
Gangs of New York
awesome.
style stuff, right?
It was so fun. It was so fun. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I
That's
had a
really
blast with
interesting.
that.
I wouldn't have thought that something like story about the founding newspaper would be, I mean, like it doesn't immediately lend itself to, oh, let's make a picture book of this, right?
Well, you'd be surprised because if you go to the library, you see a lot of these picture book biographies that kids, when they're writing their first book reports or, like 3rd grade, let's say, seems to be the sweet spot for these kinds of books where kids are not totally aged out of picture like, they can still use them as a resource and not feel like total losers?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but they have a lot of information, and you can write an interesting little, like, 3-paragraph essay on them. So
hmm,
educationally, they're really of a lot of, value.
yeah,
But
cool.
I think that, part of it is, like, yeah, trying to find even if the text isn't immediately sort of kid-friendly, what I tried to do
Hmm.
was really explore the role of children in labor at that time. And so,
Yeah, yeah,
oh,
yeah. That was a difficult time. Yeah.
it's a huge thing, but I tried to just fill the pages with lots of kids, um,
Hmm.
so that even if it wasn't you know, you only get a little glimpse of him as a kid through the text, but filling it with lots of kids was really fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, who do you consider to be your influences? Does your style change with each project? Do you go back to like the favorites every time you're in a pickle? How does it work?
Hmm. Let's see. How do I so I have certain perennial favorites, you know, legends like Arthur Rackham and John Bauer, like the Golden Age illustrators are really kind
Yeah.
of where my heart is.
Hmm. I love
And then
Rackham.
the sort of next generational group from that would be people like Hilary Knight and Lisbeth Zwerger, like 70s fairy tale illustration.
Hmm.
But today, some of my loves are Felicita Sala, Isabel Arsenault. Um, gosh, there's okay. I'm gonna go to my shelf here. Julia Sarda, Carson Ellis. You know, there's some people who are really doing like very beautiful pictures that are really tactile and lush, and you know, not digital illustration. Usually, I don't tend to gravitate toward digital. I really like to feel the artist's like hands in the work.
And you can tell. You really can tell. I mean, for all
You
the
can tell.
stuff that people say, it really makes a difference.
I mean, some people are pretty darn good at the simulation, but
Yeah.
I can always tell.
Yep. There's a bit of soul there that comes through.
Yeah, definitely.
So I had to be careful with my voice because I am working through some laryngitis. So we need
Okay.
to start wrapping this up. But
Okay.
before we do, oh, Patristics, which is an Australian channel, wants to hear someone pronounce Yola Bokaflot or something like that. Yeah, it was a bit of a risk, right? Putting that as the headliner for the whole project. But there's something about those Scandinavian words that people really like, especially as winter comes. But
Yeah,
before we sign
you
off,
instantly feel, like, cozy and
right? So before we sign off, would you be okay sharing a detail from the illustration that you have finished already for the project?
Yes, yes, it's behind me here, hold on one second. Okay. Um, Now it's funny that we were just talking about digital as, you know, the sort of the big bad thing, but I'll tell you. Okay, so this is the illustration.
Ah, look at that. That's gorgeous. It's bigger than I
Thank
thought.
Yeah, it's what size is this now? 10 by 14. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
And so
you see it on a computer screen. You assume it's got to be small, right? But no, this is a yeah. I love it. So
yeah, it's
beautiful.
pretty big. Um, so this was really, really fun to do, and I work in acrylic ink, on, Arch's hot press watercolor paper, and I love, you know, when the ink does little fun things like that. Like, I love what um, the gold on the church roof did, you know, kind of bleeding
Yeah,
in and everything.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's the kind of stuff that kind of, like, makes me feel high.
yeah.
Or, you know, like the dirt on his hands and things. So this is not
Which is a
finished.
very important detail in a
Yes,
way. So
yes. So this is not completely finished. I will go back in here with some very minor, accentuations, but then I'll also go back
yeah.
in digitally and just do a little bit of shine up, you know?
Yeah, optimization for the digital medium. So
Yeah.
that's what you got to do
Yeah.
so that it looks really lovely in the final product when you're
But yeah,
listing through it and feeling it.
and I
Yeah,
really am feeling this story, like, it's just great, you know?
no, I'm so
I'm having
glad.
so
I'm
much
so glad.
fun. And
Yeah,
you
it was fun
mentioned
to
I
write.
just
So
yeah. You mentioned, Neil Gaiman's The Ocean at the End of the Lane,
yep, that's the
which you
one.
can see that I have also bookmarked like crazy. Um, and
Yeah,
some of the you know, you can see, like, what an illustration can do for a text. It's just unbelievable,
yeah,
you know? So, this
yeah.
is
I
my
love that kind of
inspiration
thing.
for the project.
Perfect. Thank you, Derek. All right, guys. Thank you for coming out. Um, we're still hanging out at $34 under the first stretch goal. So if somebody here hasn't backed it yet, uh, you might be the one to push us over. We're at 101 backers, and really I shouldn't be complaining. It's incredible. One day and already we're at basically at 7,500. Yeah, so we'll see how far this goes. And I'm very excited to get this show on the road and get these beautiful items in your hands as soon as humanly possible. And Vesper, thank you for coming out and being such a good sport.
I'm gonna go vote now.
Oh, good. All right, excellent. All right,
Okay.
everybody. Thanks for coming out. Have a good evening.
Bye. Thank you.